What's up, my guys? What's up, my girls? Welcome back to the Dani Flo Podcast. This is the 55th episode with your boy. It's good to be with you. I'm excited, not only because this is the 55th episode, but this is the first episode with this new, what do I want to call it? I mean, it's a mic, but it's kind of cool because I got this mic because I'm investing in the podcast, obviously, and I wanted to call out the new mic because, it's a mini milestone. You know, if you've been here from the beginning, the podcast has gone through a lot of changes, right? First, with trying to put out podcasts in English and then translating them into Spanish. And then that was short lived. That was like 12 episodes. And then, actually, after that, the lockdowns due to the pandemic started, and it was hard to come up with like topics. It still is. And then I kind of switched over to like interviews, and I had fun with that. I might start doing interviews again because I don't want to like review this mic until I do a few episodes, and I'm going to use this mic to do some fitness content on my YouTube shorts. And so after I use it a few times, I'll give like an honest review, but it comes in like a 2-pack. So I could have somebody else sitting here and we could both be mic'd up and we could just have a conversation for y'all. So yeah, 55th episode, but then also first episode with this new mic, hopefully like one of many with this mic. I do have like a larger mic that you've probably, if you've been watching since the beginning, you've probably seen it in earlier videos, but the mic doesn't work on my laptop, and it works on my wife's laptop, but both of our laptops are pretty old, and even if it did work on either laptop, the webcam quality on the laptop is not as good as my iPhone. It gets better when I use the ring light. Like I have a ring light around my phone right now, which is helping because this is actually the front-facing camera, so I know what you are looking at. Unless you're listening on the audio platforms and you're just listening to my voice. By the way, if you are only listening on the audio platforms, how does it sound with a brand new mic? You're not seeing the video. I mean, even if you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know how it sounds. So the other thing that I could do is, I think the other thing that I could do is probably buy a Lightning to USB adapter to connect that mic that I have. But full transparency, my wife hadn't bought me a Christmas present, not because she didn't want to, but it was my fault. I hadn't told her what I wanted. So then I started, one of my friends suggested that I get a mic, and I told him I do have a mic, and I gave him the whole spiel that I just gave you. So I think what really planted the seed in my brain is I saw Instagram reels and YouTube shorts of people working out, and they had like these little mics like this. So then after my friend was like, oh, you should get a mic, and I told him the whole spiel, I was like, oh, maybe I should try and look up what how much these little mics cost. And I found this one. It had good reviews. And then I also YouTubed this mic, and there's people that had good things to say about it, and it was inexpensive within our budget. I told my wife, if you still want to give me a Christmas present, this is what I want. So bam. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Still bald, still patchy beard. So I wanted to talk to you, my guys and my girls, and to me about why I think we're always losing in life. And I briefly talked about this in my very first episode. And I also talked about this. I can't remember what episode it was, but I had a young girl on. Her name is Amy, and she used to have a podcast named The Inconvenient Truth with Amy, and she mentioned this. But the reason it might not even actually be that we're losing in life, but it's more of like a mental state, and it's that a mental and emotional, because it's that we think we're losing, right, in our intellect, and we feel that we're losing in our heart or in our will. And the two reasons that I think for it, that I think cause this, because I do this to myself, and everyone has unique experiences, but then we also have shared experiences, things, and a lot of times the shared experiences, we don't know that they're shared experiences because we might not talk about them. So you could be going through something, and last I checked, there was like 8 billion people in the world, plus all the people that have gone on to their eternal reward, which is a long-winded way of saying that have passed away, that have died, right? So it's like the likelihood that we're the only ones that experience something is very low. But the two reasons that I think that we think and feel that we're always losing, the first one is that we impose timelines on ourselves. So we all have different desires, different wants, and some of those desires are goals and achievements, and we want to accomplish something, we want to achieve something, we want to meet a goal, and we impose a timeline on ourselves, and we might not complete it in that timeline, and we think and feel that we lost. And that could result in us quitting and not trying anymore. So the reason I say that I've talked about this in my very first episode is I mentioned something about like that it was going to take me a long time to finish my philosophy degree if I chose to pursue philosophy as a major, as opposed to I was going to try and get a undergraduate in business administration, and there's an accelerated program for that, but that's just not what I wanted to do. So even though I would have gotten done faster doing that, I decided to major in philosophy, even if it just took me a really long time. And it is taking me a really long time, and I honestly don't even know if that's even something that I'm still going to be able to do, which is another story for another day, another episode. But I basically said in that episode something along the lines like, who says that I have to get it done by a certain time? Like, why don't I just get it done before I die? Like, that seems like a doable timeline. And a lot of us don't approach life that way. Like, we think we have to have something by the time that we're 20. We think that we have to have something by the time that we're 25 or 30 or 35 or 40. And sometimes I personally don't want to blame society or my parents or my teachers or anything like that, because that goes back to the previous episode 54, about how we always think it's somebody else. It's like a hater that's doing something to us. Like even if there is outside pressure from society, from parents, from teachers, from coworkers, whatever, bosses, we still have to make the choice on whether to put a timeline on ourselves or not put a timeline like ourselves. And in my opinion, in my unprofessional, unexpert opinion, I think that's a bad idea, because if it's something that you really want, I think ultimately it's not going to matter when you achieve it. So if I do end up getting a bachelor's in philosophy, whether I get it now at 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, if I really want it, of course it would be nice to get it the sooner the better, but as if I want it, I'm not going to care when I get it. But sometimes it's not like degrees. Sometimes it's, we think we should be a certain, we think we should be at a certain level in a job or a career by a certain age. And when we don't get there in the time that we imposed ourselves, we think and feel like we're losing. We might think that we should be in a relationship by a certain age, by 20, 25, 30. And when we don't get there by then, we think and feel that we're losing. We might think that we might be in a relationship and we might be think, okay, after this amount of time, we should be engaged. And then we're not, and we think and feel like we're losing. Or you might be engaged and you don't have a wedding date and you thought by age 30, I'm gonna be married, and now you're not, and you think and feel that you're losing. Or you might say, I need to have a house and a car or this many cars by this age, and now you don't, and you think and feel that you're losing. Or, if I turn it around on myself, like I've been doing this, thank God I've made it to, episode 55. Some people make one episode and then they quit, right? So this is episode 55. I started October 13th, 2019. The podcast has grown, and it's grown with the minimal effort and minimal work that I've put in. I've been inconsistent. And sometimes it does get to me, but if I were to say, okay, it's year 4 and I'm not at this many subscribers, I'm not at this level with the podcast, I'm going to start thinking and feeling like I'm losing in all these different areas of our life. As soon as we don't reach the timeline that we imposed on ourselves, now we think we're losing. But and this is actually, I'm not trying to purposely tie it into my Catholic faith, but and it's funny because I just went to confession today, but this didn't happen today. But I remember going to confession. It was definitely before I was married, and I went to confession, confessed my sins to the priest. And at the time I was teaching catechism, and I remember telling the priest, I think and feel like I'm a hypocrite because I'm trying to teach the Catholic faith to these kids, and then I'm still sinning in this way and the other. And I remember the priest says, well, you're not a hypocrite because you're here, right? You're not a hypocrite because you're still trying, because you're not quitting, because, okay, yeah, you committed this sin, but you've repented, and now you're going to pick yourself up and try again. The only time that you're a hypocrite is when you give up. And I feel like I don't just feel that way, but it is true that the only time that we've lost is when we've given up. So if you have a goal or you are trying to accomplish something and you didn't meet it in the timeline that you imposed on yourself, or that you even just maybe even passively thought, I think I'm going to get it done by this time, right? If that time passes 1 year, 2 years, a decade, 15 years, whatever, and you still haven't accomplished it, it doesn't mean that you lost, unless you're just going to give it up. And maybe if you give it up, it also doesn't mean that you lost, because you might not want that anymore. You might have realized that, hey, that's not what I wanted. So that's a long-winded way of the first reason why I think we always think and feel like we're losing. The second reason, and this goes back to that interview that I did with Amy who used to do the Inconvenient Truth with Amy. The episode was her story on how she was born under the one-child policy in China, and her mom gave her up for adoption to save her life. But she talked about how on social media we're always comparing each other, and it ties to reason number 2. So like, I'm 30, right? and I'm at a certain point in my life. If I start looking at, and we never, and in this area, we never look at how we're doing better than other people unless we're trying to like excuse ourselves. But normally we start thinking and feeling that we're losing because we'll compare ourselves. Sometimes we compare ourselves to where our parents were when they were 30. So when they were 30, they might have been married, had a house, had a couple kids. They might have been doing well in their career. Now you're 30, you might not have one of those things. You might not have any of those things. And now you think and feel like you're losing. Definitely, we do that with our friends. So I'm 30, I might have 30-year-old friends, and maybe they're making more money than me. I mean, I think it's still taboo, and I think it's starting to change, but I think it's still taboo to like talk about pay or whatever. And then also it comes off as like braggadocious, but like maybe you're 25, 30, 35, and a couple of your friends are making more money than you. You're comparing yourself. Now you think and feel like you're losing in life, right? When like, if you take 3 people who are 25, or even if you take one person that's 25, one person that's 35, one person that's 45, if they die natural deaths, they still have plenty of time to accomplish what they want to accomplish. There's really no point in comparing yourself. But one of the downsides of social media is that we have so many people to compare ourselves to, and when we compare ourselves, we get in this headspace of I'm losing because I don't have what that person has, and you guys are living totally different lives. It could be just as simple as like somebody takes a picture in their house looks like nice and clean. On that particular day, your house looks a mess. Now you think and feel like you're losing. Well, why? You could just clean. I mean, if you want to clean house, just clean up your house, right? Or like, it gets dangerous when like men and women compare what other people's spouses look like and what their spouses have accomplished and what yours hasn't or anything, right? It's like your life is your life, and as long as, me as a person that's hella Catholic, right? Like, as long as God gives me more time, then I can use that time prudentially, no matter what age I am, to try and accomplish this thing that I really want, or this goal that I really want to achieve. Comparing yourself is just wasting that time. It's using that time inefficiently. And that's why those are the 2 main reasons that I think and I say we because, like I said, like we all do have unique experiences, but a lot of times we have the same experiences, right? And just from talking to people, I can tell some people think and feel this way, like I'm losing in life, and it boils down to I didn't reach this goal, I didn't achieve this thing by this certain time, or this other person is either the same age as me, or they work in the same place as me, or they have something. There's usually like something similar, right? There's something similar enough to the person that then that person thinks that because I'm similar to this person, I should be just as far as they are or further. And that's just really not how life works. The way that life works is you use the time that you have to go after the things that you want. And there's just so many variables in between people's life. Like, I'm 30 and I have 2 kids and I'm a wife, right? So my wife and my 2 sons have a right to a certain amount of my time, right? somebody else who's 30 and doesn't have a wife and 2 kids, they don't have to give their time to 3 other people, right? So if me and another 30-year-old are going after the same thing, after a year, they probably will be further along with me because there's different variables going on. And that's what we're not taking into account when you look at other people's, even if you're looking backwards to like my mom, my dad, my aunt, my grandpa, whatever, my older cousin, my old whatever, they had different variables than you. And so my advice to myself and my advice to you, so that we don't think and feel like we're losing, is if you don't do something by a certain time, it's okay. And if it's something that you really want, keep going after it, right? Because, you know, like for, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's people that have won like the lottery, right? Because they play, I don't play the lottery, but there's people that have won the lottery. So they, you know, they might, my heater just turned on. So I don't know if you're going to be able to, it's pretty loud. I hope you can still hear me. But there's people that have won the lottery. So like, if you win the lottery at 30, right? It's not like, okay, so what I'm trying to say is like, if you win the lottery at 60, it's not like you're gonna be bummed out that you didn't win it at 30. You're still gonna be like, I just won the lottery. Like, sure, it would have been nice, but, you know, as long as you, like, you're not gonna care. And so if it's something that you really want, you're not going to care when you achieve it, as long as you get it done, as long as you achieve it. And then the other thing for me and for you is stop comparing yourself to the people around you, because you have your own variables that you have to deal with, and they have their own variables that they have to deal with. And a lot of times we don't know, that like other people are looking at us, and this is not to give us like an ego trip, but sometimes other people are looking at us and they admire where we are at, and yet we're looking at our life and we're saying it's not good enough because we're comparing it to other people. So those are definitely 2 areas that I need to work on, and hopefully now that I've pointed it out, it helps you to work on them as well. So if you've made it this far and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Be a Dani Floist. If you're listening on the audio platforms, go ahead and subscribe and or follow. Leave me a review, hopefully 5 stars, but I mean 3 stars is good, 4 stars is good, whatever you want. Leave me a comment if you're watching here on YouTube. Make sure you share so that, you know, we can have more Dani Floists listening to the podcast. And as always, you know, now that you're not gonna be bummed out about your timelines, and now that you're not gonna compare yourself, remember what Venerable Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen said: your life is worth living. Love you, my guys and my girls. To the next episode.